you had so much of a groundswell of attention going into this fight. You ended up being the favorite in it. I mean, you know, the attention and everything that came to you. I mean, do you feel like that was a positive thing, or did it put any added pressure going into the fight?
Oh, it always adds pressure. You know, it's just a matter of when you get in there, is it going to be too much or is it just enough, you know? And I found out tonight that, you know, I just got to be a little more patient and take my time with this. I got a lot of time, so, you know, sorry. You know, I didn't want to be, I was very excited to just go in there, win it, and take it all. So, you know, I just gotta go back and really just ponder everything and trying to evolve and learn from this and grow as a woman. You know, I kind of felt like a kid in there, so, you know, I just gotta take that and grow from this just like I did my last loss.
And a question for Carla, since she's here. Obviously, congratulations. You can't see me over here, it's fine. Congratulations on the win, of course. I asked you before the fight, I said, you know, what would your emotion be before, you know, in the cage, and I said, I know it's going to be hard to describe. Now that it's after the fight, how is your emotion winning that title after being the Invicta champion and the #1 seed in the house?
You know what, I had a lot of expectations on me, being the #1 seed, being the first pick, coming in as a champ, and I didn't know if I could do it, but I proved myself, and that's all I wanted to do, you know, just be #1 and prove that I was #1. And a lot of people told me, you think it's unfair that they didn't hand you the belt coming in? And I said, no, I want to do a tournament so that there's no doubt that I am #1, that I am the champion.
And obviously, you know, the fight itself, you know, you came out, when you're standing in the corner, and I know a lot of times before your fights, you look a little nervous, you look a little timid, but you come right out firing out of the gate and you never slow down. Is that just part of your process of who you are as a fighter, just kind of growing the confidence once the fight actually starts?
Yes, I think that's just who I am. You know, if you look back to even my first fight, it was the same thing. And for people who, you know, even in wrestling, it was the same thing. And people who don't know me and aren't used to seeing that get a little bit nervous for me. I think even my coach, you know, had really butterflies in his stomach the first time I fought, you know, because I was so nervous. But that is just part of my process, and I always come out, you know, quiet. But when it comes time to fight, I always bring it.
And last question. Obviously, you win. There's never a rest for a champion. You immediately go with a target on your back. So I've got to ask, are you going to be paying attention to tomorrow night's fight at the UFC on Fox show? Obviously, Claudia Gadelha is someone you're very familiar with. You were supposed to fight her, I think, a couple of times at that point. So how much will you be watching that fight now that you are the champ?
I love watching fights in general. I love women's MMA, so I'd watch just for fun, but definitely as a champ, I am going to keep my eye on the division and watch all the fighters and hopefully possibly even be there in person. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing fighters in this division coming out of everywhere, so definitely going to have my eyes peeled.
For Carla, please, obviously you were already #1 in the world before all this started, but compare the feeling of having that UFC title versus an Invicta title. I mean, does it mean something special, something different? I mean, obviously it was kind of the UFC before they added this division, but does it mean something different because it's an actual UFC belt?
Both were such amazing accomplishments for me. Obviously, the UFC is on a bigger scale, more eyes on me being the champion, but both were an amazing feeling because both meant that I was the best in the division at 115 pounds.
Talk about the fight itself. Obviously, you know, Rose came out with a torrid pace in the opening round. You know, were you expecting her to come out that intense, and did you think maybe you just had to kind of last through that initial storm to take control?
I really didn't know what to expect. You know, everybody has a different game plan going into every fight, especially a fight like this that's 5 rounds. I didn't know if she was going to come and feel me out for a while or just come out and, you know, throw at me. And that's what she did. She's a phenomenal athlete. She caught me with definitely a couple strikes, a great head kick that kind of sent stars in my head. I was like, whoa, you know, but every fight I go into, it kind of prepared for anything.
And last question I have for you, I mean, just to kind of follow up on what Damon said, the big fight tomorrow night, are you expecting your next challenge, are you expecting that to serve as a #1 contender fight, or are you looking at maybe somebody else that was on the cast as your next challenge?
I'm not looking at anybody specifically. I'm ready for anybody who they want to bring in front of me. Tomorrow night, whether it's coming from tomorrow night or tonight or even somewhere else, I'm ready for anything.
Any final questions, guys? Case? Carla. I just wanted to ask you, you kind of repeated what you said this whole time, that you wanted to go through the tournaments, you wanted that challenge. You said you have heard people say you backed into the Invicta title, but you wanted to prove it this time. How much more rewarding is it now that you've been through the whole process to do it this way?
It is so rewarding just because now there is no doubt. Now everybody knows Carla Esparza is the #1, is the champion. So it feels that much more satisfying as opposed to something just being handed to me. It just feels that much better, and just holding this belt is that much sweeter now.
And how much do you think about, not only having the belt, but defending it and becoming one of the dominant champions in the sport? Is that something you allow yourself to think about?
It's something that I would love, but it's also something that I don't expect. I'm going to take it fight by fight. You know, each new challenge is, something different, and I'm just going to take it day by day.
Thanks.
Another question for Carla. You obviously talk about that you are athletically now clearly the #1, but you talked about the increased profile of being the UFC champion. How important is it to act like the champion as well, and be a role model in society? Because you've got a bigger job to do now, in a sense, haven't you?
I think it's very important. I always try to hold myself to a high standard. In the 5 years that I've been fighting, I've always held myself to a high standard, always trying to be a good role model. Unfortunately, some things were taken out of context a little bit on the television show that didn't make me look like such, but I know who I am, and the people that know me and have been around me know that I do care about, being a good person and being a good role model.
And just one question for Carla. Congratulations. And obviously everything is super positive right now. I did have one, I was wondering about one thing. Is maybe the one bummer about going through the tournament is that some of those fights aren't officially on your record. Do you think that maybe some people will forget, like, you beat Jessica Pena, you beat Tisha Torres, Angela Hill looked good tonight. Do you think you'll get credit for those, or do you think those will sort of be erased over time?
I don't really like to think about that too much. I hope that each new fight, next fight, I just keep proving myself through those fights, because as a lot of people say, you're only as good as your last fight, so I just hope that each of my performances shows that I am at a good standard and I am a good fighter.
And you came into this fight, with the title, with the Invicta title, but it seemed like Rose was sort of getting a lot of the attention. She was looked at as, she was this girl who really turned the corner, and a lot of people got on her side. Did you feel that at all? Did it put any kind of chip on your shoulder, or did you just ignore that this week?
It is a little bit hard to ignore. There were a lot of people that doubted me and saw Rose as the next champion, but I don't blame them. Rose came into the house, had 3 phenomenal finishes. She has an amazing style, just great striking, great on the ground, great everywhere. So, that doesn't really make me upset at all. It is a little bit hard, to not have a lot of people believe in me, but in the end, I go out there and fight, and I make people believe in me through my fights.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Carla. Congratulations to our new champion. Thank you all for attending today. Thank you to the Palms for having us back. We'll see you tomorrow night in Phoenix.
Well, that's it.